Before 1965, there was little to no supervision or standards for teaching English language learners. English immersion, or sink or swim policies, were often used as a method of instruction. With little to no remedial services offered, it was not uncommon for students to spend years in one grade level as they had to learn enough English in order to become proficient in the general subject areas. In 1963, a successful two-way bilingual program for Cuban refugee children was discovered at Coral Way Elementary School, located in Dade County, Florida. This bilingual program inspired places throughout the United States to attempt to find more success by creating similar programs in their local schools. In 1964, Title 11 of the Civil Rights Act prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, or national origin in the operation of all activities or programs that receive federal funds or other federal financial assistance. It also includes a section talking specifically about people with limited English proficiency, stating that persons with limited English proficiency must be afforded a meaningful opportunity to participate in programs that receive federal funds. Policies and practices may not deny or have the effect of denying persons with limited English proficiency equal access to federally funded programs for which such persons qualify. Title 12 of the Bilingual Education Act began when Senator Ralph Yarborough of Texas introduced the bill to provide federal funding for school districts in order to support bilingual education programs. This bill became the 1968 Bilingual Education Act, or Title 12 of the ESEA in federal law. The passage of this act eventually led to 32 states adopting similar policies. The ESEA was reauthorized 6 times, the last being in 1994, allowing Title 12 to be in effect from 1968 until early 2002. The 1974 Supreme Court case, Lau versus Nichols, resulted in what could be considered to be one of the most important court decisions regarding English language learners' education. This case involved Chinese American students in San Francisco being placed in mainstream classrooms without regard to the fact that they lacked proficiency in English, ultimately leaving them to sink or swim. We have heard this term in this PowerPoint before in the first slide, referring to the 1920s through the 1960s, meaning that this situation was going against the grain and reversing the progress of ELL education. The district court decision denied relief, stating that the policies of the school system did not violate the 14th Amendment or the Civil Rights Act. Thankfully, the Supreme Court Justice William Douglas strongly disagreed with this decision and argued that there is no equality of treatment merely by providing students with the same facilities, textbooks, teachers, and curriculum. For students who do not understand English are effectively foreclosed from any meaningful education. Based on the Supreme Court decision, the U.S. Department of Education instated the Lau remedies in 1974 to handle the districts that had been ignoring the needs of English language learners. The Lau remedies required districts to incorporate bilingual education programs into schools in order to provide an adequate education for English language learners. This was also codified into federal law through the Equal Educational Opportunities Act of 1974. Section 1703F states, "No state shall deny educational opportunities to an individual on account of his or her race, color, sex, or national origin by the failure of an educational agency to take appropriate action to overcome language barriers that impede equal participation by its students in its instructional programs. In 1981, the federal court case Castaneda versus Pickard provided a major setback to bilingual education. Even though Raymondville, Texas Independent School District was determined to fall far below the requirements of the EEOA, the plaintiffs' demands for bilingual education were not supported. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals formulated a three-pronged test to determine school district compliance with the EEOA. This test was called the Castaneda test. It includes the following criteria. Theory. The school must pursue a program based on an educational theory recognized as sound or at least as a legitimate experimental strategy. Practice. The school must actually implement the program with instructional practices, resources, and personnel necessary to transfer theory to reality. Results. The school must not persist in a program that fails to produce results. This test, however, allows almost any program to be justified through the first two prongs, while the third prong requires a certain amount of time to pass before adequacy can be determined. These shortcomings may allow many students to be harmed before identifying the inadequate program. In 1987, the court case Gomez v. Illinois State Board of Education demonstrated the value of the Castaneda test in legal efforts to rectify inadequate programs. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the Seventh Circuit relied heavily upon the Castaneda case in its decision and gave state boards of education the power to enforce compliance with the EEOA. The court declared that school districts have a responsibility to serve ELL students and cannot allow children to just sit in classrooms where they don't understand instruction. However, the court did not mandate any specific program models. The No Child Left Behind Act of 2001 made a dramatic impact on federal policy for language minority students whenever it passed. The Title 12 Bilingual Education Act was replaced by Title III Language Instruction for Limited English Proficient and Immigrant Students. A language instruction education program is defined as an instructional course in which a limited English proficient child is placed for the purpose of developing and attaining English proficiency while meeting challenging state academic content and student academic achievement standards, and that may make instructional use of both English and a child's native language to enable the child to develop and attain English proficiency, and may include the participation for English proficient children if such course is designed to enable all participating children to become proficient in English and a second language. In 2009, President Barack Obama introduced a new program as part of the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009. This program, Race to the Top, provided over $4 million in competitive grants for states to begin education reform efforts. There are 4 general requirements for the use of the Race to the Top funds. 1. Adopting internationally benchmarked standards that prepare students for success in college and the workplace, and high-quality assessments that are valid and reliable for all students, including English language learners and students with disabilities. 2. Recruiting, developing, rewarding, and retaining effective teachers and principals. 3. Increased transparency by building data systems that measure students' success and inform teachers and principals how they can improve their practices. 4. Support effective intervention strategies to turn around the lowest performing schools. These requirements caused concern for English language learner advocates as there is an emphasis on high-stakes testing.